talking about lubricating seat tracks in a W123, and this would apply to a W108, 109, 114, 115, 107, you know, any of those old Mercedes that use these manually adjusting seats. And you can see that I can't even move this. You know, there's bearings down in here, and this is supposed to go back and forth. Now look, I'm getting it to move just a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this lubricant, I call this my miracle lubricant, and we're going to pour some in here, and then we're going to leave this upright and see what happens. See how well the lubricant will wick itself down towards the bottom. So I'm going to use about 1/2 inch on each side of this rail. Well, just let it ooze its way down in there. Okay, we'll put some over on the other side. All right, this will be an interesting test and will help us understand the best way to actually lubricate these seats without having to remove them from the car. I'm going to lean it up against the wall. We'll come back and take another look at this. I walked by, it's the end of the day, I realized I don't even need to let this sit overnight. Look at how well that lubricant just drained right through those rails with all the junk and all those bearings down inside here. What I'm trying to demonstrate is it possible to lubricate these seat tracks with the seats in the car and get them tilted enough that you can actually get the same effect of putting in the lubricant up here at the top and letting it drain out the bottom. Now let's see how well we can get this to move. Now I'm going to use this vise to see if I can get this track moving back and forth. You don't need to do this if you're doing this with the seat in the car, because you still have the bolts, and you drop it back down, put the bolts back in, then you're going to use your body and sit on the seat and move it back and forth. But for the purposes of this video, I'm going to get a punch there. I'm going to see if I can get it to move. Okay, there it goes. And it's real rough, see? But after a while with that lubrication in there, this will start moving. Okay, now we get on this end. It's a little too tight. And so you can see, when you re-lube these seats that haven't been lubed in 20 years, you're going to get some exercise using your body, lifting up on the release handles to get the seat moving back and forth. Okay, take a look. You can see the junk that's down in there. Now, ideally, I have to admit, taking the seats out of the car and removing these from the seats and cleaning these and using some sort of solvent. Now, if you look down here, you can see the roller. There's a roller, so the roller needs lubrication. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a bunch of lubrication down here, down the middle, and down the sides again. We'll let it sit overnight and come back and do this again tomorrow. Okay. So I'm going to put a little lubricant right down the center here, and I'll put some more down these side tracks. And then this time I'm going to let it sit at about the angle it would be at if you loosen the bolts and tip the seat up inside the car and let it sit overnight. If you're letting this sit in the car overnight, you definitely want to put something in the back here to catch the drips, but I'm not going to worry about that while it's sitting here on the workbench. So I did something a little different when I left the shop yesterday. I decided to tilt this about the same as it would be tilted if you're lubing it with the seat in the car. Look at how much lubricant ran out, even on a 30-degree angle like this. And the amazing thing about this synthetic lubricant that you see here, it does not dry out like lithium grease. It does not go away like WD-40. This stays there. So once it drains through, you're going to be able to see it'll stay wet and very slippery over a long period of time. So what I'm going to do now is put this up in the vise again, and let's see if we can get this moving freely. Okay, we're going to exercise this a little bit. Now remember, if you're doing this in the car, you're going to be sitting in the seat, moving the seat back and forth. But what I'm trying to demonstrate here is you do have to work this to get that lubricant fully into those bearings, and of course this is going to move some of the crud out of there. Look at that. Look at the difference. Isn't that amazing? Now you can move it by hand. I couldn't even budge it when we started. And that's what you want. If you can't move these tracks easily by hand like this, then you have a problem. You cannot believe how when you actually lubricate all 4 tracks in a seat that raises and lowers as well as goes fore and aft, how easy it is to get in there and adjust the seat. If the seat tracks aren't all rusty, stuck, corroded, I like to lube these with the seat in the car. Now this seat is frozen. It won't ramp. That means I can't pull up and get it to move up and down. And besides, I want to put this seat on the other side. So we're going to pull this seat out and lube the tracks with the seat out. The problem is you can't massage it as easily as you can if the seat's in the car. So if the seat track is moving and you just want to give it a good lubrication, you can loosen up the back bolts, pull the front bolts, tip it up about 4 inches. You can block it, and then go ahead and put the lubrication in. Let it run down, put some rags in the back to catch it. Be sure and remove your carpet. And then the next day you come back and drop it down, put these front bolts in, then you get in and massage it like we did on the vise. But here you're going to be sitting in the chair right here, just moving it back and forth with the lever that tracks it fore and aft, and using this lever to ramp it up and down. So I'm going to include, by the way, in my lubrication kit, I'm going to give you some bolts for these front seats, because a lot of times these bolts are all corroded and rusty. These aren't bad, but a lot of times, particularly in the rear, they're really bad.